Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 339 of Super Switch Headz, the premier Nintendo podcast on all of the internet. My name is David Howe, and boy, oh boy, ladies and gentlemen, we have some very special guests on today's episode of the podcast. Please welcome back to the podcast, developer of Big Hops, Chris Wade. And for the very first time on the show, big fan of your games, we've got Fabian Rastorfer from Fabraz, developer of Demon Tides and Demon Turf. Thank you guys so much for being on the episode today.
Happy to be here.
Absolutely.
Be here, yeah.
We have you both on today because we are going to be talking all about expressive platformers. This is something that's been really popping up as a term over the last couple years. I don't know, Fabian, if you invented this term or where it exactly came from, but it's definitely taken off, and we're seeing it in the kind of 3D platformer kind of renaissance that's happening right now. We did an episode on 3D platformers a couple years ago. Both of y'all's games, I think, were included in that. And I think this kind of subgenre of expressive platformers is really exciting. I know, Fabian, you have two games coming out this year. Definitely want to talk about that as well, just what that's like, developing two games simultaneously. But we're going to get into all that stuff in the main topic. It's going to be a really fun kind of developer roundtable here today. So I'm excited to have both of you on. We also have a lot of news and rumors we're going to be getting to. Some weeks there's nothing to talk about. Some weeks there's too much to talk about. There were multiple Nintendo Directs announced and came out. Mario Brothers Wonder Nintendo Switch 2 Edition got an overview trailer. There was an Xbox Developer Direct and much, much more. But before we get into all that, how are you guys doing? Are we having a good week? Fabian, I can imagine you guys are pretty crunched right now. How's it going over there at Fabraz?
Yeah, neck deep in finalizing everything. We're like a week out for review codes with Tides. So yeah, definitely in full action, the whole team right now. Like as we speak right now, the team is tinkering away.
yeah,
That's exciting.
I imagine so. Thank you for taking time out to do the podcast. I appreciate that.
Of course.
What about you, Chris? How you doing post-release here?
I'm great. I'm feeling sort of like chill now. All the major fixes are kind of done or like in review for like patches and stuff. And now it's like just kind of fixing small stuff and talking to people about, you know, the high level like quality of life features they want.
That's cool.
Get more into that later.
Yeah. That's something that I feel like most people don't really realize about like game dev and 2025 or whatever is like, it's the game comes out and it's not like you press the button and you're like, very good. You know, it's still a lot to do. So it's nice hearing some.
I think for some people it's like that, but with indies, it's like very worth our time to keep engaging the audience and like adding stuff. And like we're gonna have our first sale probably in a few months, and that's like that could be when the most people play it.
Right. Yeah. That's a great point, man. Yeah, lots to think about there, but we'll get into a lot more of that in the main topic. I just want to say, I hope you're surviving the cold, Chris. I know we're both here in Austin, Texas, where it's currently around 20 something degrees, which is very unusual for us. I mostly am doing okay. I did venture out yesterday. I will say the Grand was open, which was cool. So it was nice
I went sledding on a skateboard down a hill near me.
Cool. That's nice to see. But yeah, it's very, very cold over here right now. I also just want to say and get this out of the way at the beginning. This has been a really shitty week in America. Basically, this past week, I'm sure everybody is aware of what's going on. And I just like want to right now just say my piece on that, which is just, you know, we're thinking about everybody that's in, you know, Minneapolis right now, Minnesota, and just everywhere around the country that's dealing with this insane takeover from ICE right now. It's just been completely debilitating to bear witness to. And I just think it's amazing how many people have spoken out over the past week that I feel like maybe haven't, who have kind of felt like maybe politics has not really been their cup of tea or something that they want to ignore. It seems like now the time has finally come to where this stuff cannot be ignored. And so I just want to give a shout out to everybody that's out there fighting the good fight right now. It is not falling on deaf eyes. You know, we have never shied away from that on this podcast. Not that this is a politics podcast or anything like that. But I just, want to send my support to everybody that's really going through the shit at the moment, and take time for yourself if you need it. I know this past week has been a lot of doom scrolling for me, but going out and actually seeing friends whenever I can, playing video games has been a really great way to deal with some of the stress. But stay engaged, stay informed, and look out for your fellow neighbors. Wanted to get that out of the way at the top.
Yeah, fuck ice.
Fuck ice, yes. We will continue to trumpet that at the end of every episode, and maybe at the beginning now. We might have to bookend the show. Real quick, before we move into the news, a couple shout-outs. One was from Kiro Seta in the Discord, who said last week for our Animal Crossing episode that we did with Catherine and Emma, Kiro Seta said, I really appreciated this week's episode. It convinced me not to start over on Animal Crossing and transfer my save data instead. I feel like the desire to build an island from scratch belongs in the 2020 version of my brain. I agree with that, Kiro Seta. I don't even know. I think my time with Animal Crossing New Horizons has passed, but I do see a lot of people on the Discord actively playing the new update, and that's really good to see, especially for people looking for something free to play these days. Also, I want to give a shout out to Dialogue Tree and a friend of the show, AV. I know the both of you, Chris and Fabian, you guys were both on Andrew's podcast. So we're going to be having like a 1-2 punch, I think, of these podcasts coming out. So if you enjoyed this conversation with these two developers, definitely check out Dialogue Tree. That episode, I think, is coming out tomorrow or the day after this podcast comes out. I'm not exactly sure. Might be coming out on the same day, which would be very funny indeed. But Andrew does a great podcast over there. So if you enjoy this conversation and you want more, definitely go over there and check it out. He does really great work over there. I love the way he edits his show. It's very Radio Lab style, very different from our show over here. So it's a good one to subscribe to and whatnot. And then lastly, in the background of the video version here, I've got a skateboard that was sent over to me from a member of our Discord, Donnie Meyer. He's a pro skater. And I just want to give a shout out to Donnie. He sent me a free skateboard. I really appreciate
Awesome.
that. I'm not even really a skater, but I'm going to put that shit on my wall and have that up. So I always think of Donnie, and
now you can go sledding too.
Yeah, now I can go sledding too. Now I can ruin the beautiful art of Donnie's face on the bottom of that board with the very thin layer of ice that we have on the streets here in Austin, Texas. But thanks everybody for the shout outs over on social media. If you would like to be shouted out, definitely drop us a line. We've got reels going now on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube shorts and whatnot. Leave a comment over there. Leave a comment in the bottom of the YouTube version of this video. Like and subscribe while you're over there. But I think with all that out of the way, it's time to move on to the news because we got a good bit to talk about. You guys feeling ready to move on to the news? We're ready to get skit and caboodle?
Yeah, unless Donnie wants to send me a skateboard.
Yeah, Donnie, you should. This just in, Chris will trade you a copy of Big Hops for a skateboard. So,
easily.
yeah.
I would do that.
So very good. That's a nice little shout out for Donnie. All right, we're going to start here with some Nintendo Direct news because there's actually been a good amount of Nintendo Direct news that just dropped in the last few days. First of all, there was on 1/25, that was Sunday, January 25th, there was a Mario Galaxy movie Direct. This essentially was just the new trailer for the Mario Galaxy movie. This has been moved up, I think, slightly. I think originally it was releasing on the 3rd of April. Now it has a release of April 1st. I think that's Good Friday, or it's around Easter weekend there. So I think they moved it up a little bit to get sort of out of the way of that release. Did either of you have a chance to watch this trailer, or are you excited for this at all?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I'm gonna see it, but I haven't seen the trailer.
I think I can say that I'm equally surprised as many others that it's surprisingly Galaxy-less. Right?
Right.
The content in it is mostly Mario 2 and other games.
Mm-hmm.
So I am very curious how much of this is going to be even more just let's try to reference everything, every game, every universe, every possible Mario-related character.
Yeah. It does seem like they've really packed it to the gills, haven't they? It's I'm,
for sure.
Not that, I'm looking for, top kino with these Mario movies.
Pure cinema.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, one of these.
It's the Smash Bros. Of movies. And that's okay.
Right. But it seems they're putting a lot in there. There's definitely a section that's in the Mario 2 universe because there's a bit with Birdo, my wife, by the way. Mm-hmm. Birdo is my wife. It was really nice to see Birdo in this. I think we saw Mauser. There's all these little Mario 2 characters that are in it. So I hope they're not biting off more than they can chew. But we did get, at the end, a little bit of a talk from Meledandri-san from Illumination Entertainment, just talking about how the movie's done. They're doing the score right now and everything. So I'm excited to see that regardless. It's always a nice event to see those whenever they pop up in theaters. Another bit of news here that we have is whenever this episode comes out, I believe the following day, the 29th, there will be a Tomodachi Life Living the Dream Direct. I imagine this is where we're going to be getting a release date for Tomodachi Life. I'm really, really excited for this game. I've been talking about this ever since we found out about it, that I really feel like this is going to be a huge hit, like in the age of social media, right? This new Tomodachi Life, and it being on Switch, where there are 100 million Switches out there. I feel like this is going to be a huge hit. Or are you a Tomodachi Life player, Fabian? Or are you excited for this at all?
Never played them. Always been aware of them. And for me in general, I'm just so happy that Nintendo still gets to be weird. I think that's really actually genuinely important.
Yeah, I think so too.
I was surprised how popular when that Direct came out announcing it. It was like, no comments on anything else except Tomodachi Life.
yeah, that's true. I don't know. I see a lot of, I'm plugged into the YouTubeverse when it comes to video games and whatnot. And I just see a lot of content creators already posting tons of Tomodachi Life videos. So I just think it's going to be crazy whenever that comes out. And I can't wait to see the release date for that. That's going to be a really fun one. And then last little bit of Nintendo Direct news here. Nate the Hate is kind of an infamous leaker, puts out a podcast with a friend of the show, MVG. Very rarely these days. They don't come out as often as they used to. But his latest episode dropped the day we're recording this, which is Monday, January 26th. And he was asked about a potential General Direct for Nintendo. And it's sounding like the rumor mill is saying first week of February. So I know that's about when Demon Tides is coming out, right? When's the release date?
I'm okay as long as it's not on February 19th. As long as it's not that day, I'm fine.
Okay. Well, according to Nate, it should be around February 5th. I believe that he's saying that he's hearing first week of February. That could change. No word on if that's a partner direct or a general direct or whatever. Hopefully it's not this Tomodachi Life thing that was announced, or the Mario Galaxy Direct. It could have been either, but either way, I do think we're due for one, because there's a lot on Nintendo's schedule that we do not currently know about. But I'm really excited, man. Every time it's a Nintendo Direct, it's a party, and I think everybody
give me Splatoon news, please. That's what I want.
Splatoon Raiders is like what? Yeah. What even is the game? We don't even know what that game is.
I don't care. I love Splatoon. It's single player content. Sign me up.
Yeah.
I'm in.
Hell yeah. Damn, we gotta squat up on Splatoon sometime, Fabian.
I'm kind of hoping it's an indie one. I feel like we're due for another indie direct.
I agree. The indie directs are always really exciting, and there's a lot of games that I found out about through those, and I think it actually has huge amounts of reach. Those indie worlds, kind of more than any other like Summer of Gaming or Summer Game Fest stuff. Like I think it really does numbers. So excited to see what's next. But we're gonna move on from that for right now to Super Mario Brothers Wonder Nintendo Switch 2 Edition plus Meetup in Belleville Park. God damn it. I'm really tired of these names. In the trailer, they say that.
Nintendo Switch 2 Edition. You can add on top if you want.
Yeah. Well, they say, we have news about the I can't even fucking say it. It's crazy the way that they word these with their legalese. But there was an overview trailer for this DLC and Nintendo Switch 2 Edition that dropped recently. I gotta say, it's not really doing it for me necessarily. I'm a huge fan of Mario Wonder. I loved this game. It was so fun to play a brand new like 2D Mario game that isn't a new Super Mario Brothers game. Not that I'm a hater on those games either. I really do like those games. But it seems like this is mostly multiplayer focused and kind of party game-esque, which is a little weird given that I feel like a lot of the Switch 2 editions that have been coming out recently are local co-op, multiplayer, party game focused. But it does seem like that there are at the very least like challenges that are available for the single player campaign. So it does seem like if you want to replay the game, there will be something there for you. I think another thing that was shown here was that Rosalina is being added to the roster, which is really exciting to see. You guys excited for this at all? Are you guys only 3D platformer fans, or do you enjoy?
No. I love 2D platformers too. It takes a lot for me to go back to a game even with DLC. So usually the DLC has to like be really enticing to me.
Right.
I think to your point, a lot of this DLC, like these new versions, are also to kind of sell Nintendo Switch 2 features, right? Because like a lot of their features are multiplayer centric, from like the Hangout system, the game sharing. So my guess is that it's a lot also to kind of just like have a list of, oh, these games support those features, because otherwise you don't have that many right now.
Yeah. That's a good point. What about you, Chris? Are you going to be going back to Mario Brothers Wonder? Did you ever play this game to begin with?
I really liked Wonder.
Yeah.
It's my favorite 2D Mario game in the last decade, easily.
I'd agree.
And the thing I'm excited about is that if Nintendo learns how to do multiplayer better, then maybe we'll get Mario Odyssey or like whatever the next 3D Mario game is going to be with some like real multiplayer in it.
Yeah, that could be fun.
Yeah,
some of my favorite content, like Mario Odyssey content, has been the catch. Do you know what I'm going to say? Yeah, the hide and seek. The streamers are playing like the modded version.
Yeah.
I hope that doesn't put me on Nintendo's blacklist, but
I think we could talk about it. I think
Big Hops got delisted.
yeah.
No. Oh my God, Nintendo is like totally thought criming people now. Like, what the hell? No, you're totally right. I kind of forgot about those. I feel like that was really big during like the pandemic, whenever everybody was at home and modders were like really going hog wild on Switch. But yeah, you saw a lot of streamers playing like multiplayer Odyssey, which was so much fun. And you know, we see stuff like that kind of becoming part of the actual canon of video games sometimes, like with like the Grand Theft Auto role-playing stuff, like that all kind of started unofficial and that it eventually got added into Grand Theft Auto Online. So I'd love to see Nintendo kind of take lessons that they've learned from some of these modders and put them in game. And yeah, I think that this game had really weird online multiplayer to begin with. It had that kind of like it wasn't asynchronous, but it's like your friends were ghosts, or like you could play with a bunch of randoms or with friends, and it was just.
But Luigi's Balloon Challenge was awesome. I thought that thing was amazing.
Oh, in Odyssey. Yeah.
I went back and played a lot of that.
Yeah.
Same.
So I hope to see some more of that in this. It's also in the trailer right now. It's showing an assist mode. So they made it to where you literally cannot take any damage or ever die.
Isn't it also like the third easy mode in that game? That's what confuses me.
Yeah, Yoshi was already easy mode. Whatever. Right. We don't have to have that conversation.
The babies need it.
There's a couple other things that were announced here as well. There's a trio of amiibos that are going to be coming out. God knows how much those are going to cost. But you've got the Elephant Mario. What is it? The Prince Florian and I believe Captain Toad as well are coming as amiibos. And then lastly, they also have the talking flower device, which is coming out.
It's beautiful.
Very, very weird. This is certainly not for me, but this is something that is coming out. All of these, by the way, have the Mario 40th anniversary label on them. But anyway, there's an actual physical version of the talking flower that will just talk twice every hour randomly at you. So if that's something you desire, then that's there.
I loved Cal Bozeman's take on it, where he was like saying, this is for the depressed people, because there is no conversation. You talk to it, it says a random thing, and that's it.
Right. Yeah, it doesn't have like Gemini AI bot inside.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it actually says that to you. It's like, it's not going to have a conversation with you.
By the way, thank God.
Oh my God. See, no, I think the talking flower is there just so it can like record us. And if they hear us talking about mod support on Switch games, then they ban us from YouTube.
That's right.
I think that's what it's all
about.
The
mod red dot arrives.
God damn it. Yeah, the flower will shoot you. Anyway, that's enough on that. I'll probably pick this up just to play the game in 4K at the very least, but I think it'll be fun to play with some friends. But anyway, we're going to move on to a free update. In fact, a bevy of free updates that have been dropping for Nintendo Switch 2 games.
David from the freaking future here. Looks like they also updated Splatoon with health bars and aura farming. We'll talk more about that next week. But in addition to that, they also did a huge update to Kirby Air Riders, adding a bunch of game share options. You can play online. They added a Grand Prix. And we got an update on Virtual Boy. There's 2 unreleased games. An unreleased F-Zero game is coming out, amongst a couple others. It's like we got a direct this week without getting a direct. We'll talk about all this next week on the podcast. I gotta go. Aliens are invading the future. Bye.
Firstly, this one came out of nowhere. Donkey Kong Country Returns HD got a random update, which basically made it 4K on Switch 2, and then fixed a couple things like the bouncing co-op issue that people were having where, you would just fall through enemies when you're playing multiplayer on that. They fixed that, so it's more in line with the Wii version. And they added Dixie Kong to this game as well. So now from Tropical Freeze, you have Dixie Kong. They basically just copied and pasted her from that game. This is really exciting. And to be honest, I was like, why are they putting this out? I've already beaten this game like 4 times, which is no joke. I've played it on every platform that it's come out on. But this really has gotten me to come back in and actually play the kind of speedrun time attack mode, which I never really did because it's very hard. But I think like playing the game like in 1080p, like in handheld on my Switch 2, actually feels really, really good. And it's been a ton of fun revisiting this game for the 5th time now.
Did you see how they handled the pre-rendered cutscene issue? It made me laugh so much.
Oh, yeah. Can you explain that?
Yeah, so they have pre-rendered cutscenes, and in them it's always just DK and Diddy. So if you're playing with Dixie, they were like, how do we handle that? And so basically they added like a little animation in front of any cutscene where basically Dixie and Diddy kind of like clap and swap out. So that then during the pre-rendered cutscene. But then afterwards, this is my favorite part. Afterwards, it goes back to Dixie, and you know what they do with Diddy? He just kind of flies off the screen. Like some cosmic entity just grabs and yanks him away. It looks so funny.
Yeah, that's great.
I love it.
Let that be a lesson to all aspiring game developers. You can just do stuff like that and nobody will ever question it. You know, there's headcanons for everything. But this is great. I really, really want to see more of this. It seems like these kind of Switch 2 like upgrades that are coming out, they're just kind of shadow dropping these, you know? So that's really good to see. I want to see a lot more of that. You know, I wish that they would still just make it to where you could toggle Switch 1 games to play in docked mode while handheld on Switch 2. That would be my ultimate fix all thing, you know? Like that's all I really need, but it seems like they're doing this on a game-to-game basis. But one of the other updates we got here was Mario Kart World. Got like a 1.5 version update, added Team Knockout Tour. So that's kind of interesting. I think that actually will make Knockout Tour a little bit more playable when you're playing online with your friends, because there's nothing worse than like playing with 4 people and then 3 people get knocked out and there's one guy still going all the way to the end. Everybody just kind of has to sit there and watch. So hopefully this kind of Team Knockout Tour mode fixes some of that. So it's cool to see that game getting more updates. I'd love a lot more free updates with content there. And then Tetris 99 also got an update randomly. I'm a big Tetris 99 player. There's no actual discernible features added. The patch notes are just like making the gameplay more acceptable or something like that. So Oatmeal Dome had some theories on what that could have been, something about themes being local instead of on server or whatever, but who knows? I'm still playing Tetris 99. You guys Tetris 99 heads? I've got my Tetris hat on right now, so I'm really excited about it.
I liked it. I played maybe 10 hours when it came out.
Yeah. 10 hours. Those are rookie numbers. You got to boost those numbers up. It's a very stressful game. But
maybe now's the time.
Yeah, who knows? Yeah, play through it, see if you can data mine the game and figure out what they updated. But we'll move on here. And we are in this era now where a lot of these long-term Japanese employees at Nintendo that have been there since the very beginning days are starting to leave and retire. There's been a couple big name retirements happening. Firstly, was Kensuke Tanabe, who most recently has been kind of the Nintendo co-limited, like, you know, Japanese Nintendo producer of the Metroid Prime games. So I think he's been doing he did all 3 of the original trilogy, and he was the kind of main point of contact at Nintendo proper for Metroid Prime 4. And he recently just said that he's leaving. I think it was in an interview with, I think it was, where was it? It was one of the Japanese publications here, but he confirmed that Metroid Prime 4 is going to be his last game. He said that he will be succeeded by Risa Tabata, who has been, I think, basically, you know, shadowing him throughout this process for a very long time. But, you know, that is a long term at Nintendo. Most known recently for the Metroid Prime games, but he was also the director of many of the Paper Mario games as well. I think Tabata actually led the most recent Thousand Year Door remake. So she definitely has tenure, and I think everything's in good hands with her. But, you know, everybody kind of thinks of the Nintendo, the like Western development studios under Nintendo, like Retro and Next Level, as their own kind of entities. But there's lots of hands-on producing work coming in from Japan. And so it's really sad to see him go. Also, Hideki Kono is another one that left as well. Hideki Kono most recently launched Mario Kart World, but has been known for many of the Mario Kart games. I think from the very first game for the Super Nintendo, and also Yoshi's Island, and so many more. So it's really sad to see Kono leave. Apparently, he actually left in July, but it's only just now coming out that he's retired. On top of this, we also had Doug Bowser. Obviously, we knew that he had left recently, the Nintendo of America president. He's now joined a board at Hasbro, which is interesting. We have in the show notes here that Jordan put together that he's joining Hasbro to mend the relationship and bring Baldur's Gate 3 to the Switch 2. I don't think that's true. I think this is just what rich white guys do. Like when they like end their tenure as CEOs, they just move to the boards of other companies so they can keep making tons of money without having to do any work. I think that's what's actually happening here. But
it's a good gig. Seems like a good gig.
Yeah.
Didn't Reggie go to GameStop as an advisor board?
Exactly. It's like as soon as he left, he went to the board at GameStop, and and it's like, what do you do at the board of GameStop? Just be like, close all these stores. That's pretty much all there is to do, I guess. But what do you guys think about this kind of? I'm not gonna make this all dramatic and be like, oh, there's an exodus happening at Nintendo. But we are nearing that time here where a lot of the big figureheads that have been at Nintendo since the very beginning are finally retiring. Like, what do you guys think about maybe the future of Nintendo might look like with a lot of the old guard gone?
So I think the amazing thing with Nintendo, this is almost entirely unique to Nintendo, right? Is that the fact that the old guard was there for so long. Mm-hmm. There's very few companies that even 10 years ago are the same, have even 80% of the same team members left, right?
Yeah.
At Nintendo, people who worked on the first Mario are still working on the newest Mario and are teaching all of their teammates the ropes. And so I think at that point, I think there's almost no worry to be had because they're leaving, but they've taught everything they know and have given all of their skills and their ideas and have passed that on already for decades. I think I think that's one of the reasons why Nintendo has managed to keep a quality, pretty consistent quality throughout all of their series.
That's a really great point.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the stat is that like 90% of the team that worked on the original Mario Bros. Worked on Mario Wonder also.
That's insane.
There's literally no other example of a two games that are 40 years apart like that. And I think I feel really comfortable with it because you look at like Zelda, you look at their flagship series and they're like, okay, we're willing to take the Zelda formula and like reinvent it while the old heads are still here. And like, to me, that's like a passing of the torch already that's happened. And you could really consider Bonanza, doing that to Mario too. It's like, two games couldn't be more different, between Odyssey and Bonanza, I would say.
Yeah, but
they always innovate. It's amazing. Like it's because I remember during Bowser's Fury, for example, everybody's like, "Oh, they're guaranteed gonna make a bigger game of this," and I'm like, "Yeah, they could, but it's also Nintendo. They could do something completely different."
Yeah,
because that's what they do. They keep it fresh.
Just the retention in general of people for this long shows like how tight the community is at Nintendo and how that kind of development family really, really has been just that continuity, like over the years. You have so much innovation, as you said, and then also you still have that kind of like secret sauce that like binds everything together. And I really do hope that the new team can really carry that through. I love a lot of the new IPs. Like you were talking about Splatoon, like that felt like such a Nintendo IP, but it did feel totally fresh. Like I'd never seen anything like that before. And so if that's the direction that they go, I'd love to see some new IPs popping up in addition to this continuity going through. And then it's even like the people that are outside they bring in. Like I think the current kind of lead and director of all the new Zelda games is Fujibayashi, who originally started at Capcom, like working on the Oracle of Seasons and Oracle of Ages games, So it's really like once they notice that talent, they really try to keep them in-house and keep that ethos going. But we do have, I'm going to read this out real quick, but we've got a list of just kind of some of the old heads that are still at Nintendo, like some of the very beginning people like Takashi Tezuka, Shigeru Miyamoto, Yoshio Sakamoto, Koji Kondo. Those are guys that were all around back in the NES days. They're all still there right now. You've got Shinya Takahashi, who's kind of leading EPD at the moment. He's sort of the overall director of games development at the moment. Who else do we have? Yoshiaki Koizumi, who, was brought on as early as I think Mario 64, and Eiji Aonuma, obviously, who is kind of the overall producer of the Zelda franchise. So, there's lots of guys there that are very deserving of retirement, but they decide to stick around for as long as they can. So we'll have to check back in and see if there's any more big retirees this year. But I do want to say, if you're interested in this topic at all and you want to know a little bit more about Nintendo of Japan, one of my favorite Nintendo YouTubers right now was a guy called Nintendo Forecast. And I don't know if you guys have ever seen any of his videos, but he really does amazing work, just kind of breaking down how NCL is organized and who's making what and what the different development teams are. So if this is an interesting topic, definitely check out his videos. I'd love to have him on to talk about some of this at some point in the future as well. But we'll move on for right now. Hopefully we don't lose all the secret sauce that Nintendo has to offer. There was a Xbox Developer Direct. We're going to move on to a little bit here of non-Nintendo news before we move back. I'm not going to go into too big a detail on this. I didn't really watch this whole direct all together, but there were some interesting announcements. One of them was there is a new Game Freak game that is coming to Xbox. This is called Beast of Reincarnation. I think it's nice to see Game Freak working on stuff outside of Nintendo, personally. There's also new news about the new Fable game. Apparently, those office cutaways are going to be part of the actual gameplay. I don't think anybody actually saw that coming.
I'm so interested in this.
Yeah, me too.
Same.
Forza Horizon 6 is set in Japan. There's a new Double Fine online multiplayer game called Kiln. Did you guys have any takeaways from this Xbox Direct? You guys said you were interested in Fable, right?
Molyneux not being there to be weird and pull them in weird directions. I'm so curious what a Fable game looks like without him.
Right.
And the Kiln game from Double Fine, I don't know if you guys followed their old Amnesia Fortnite stuff, but this was a prototype from at least a decade ago that they had made, and seemed to be really well regarded by like fans of Double Fine and their process. And I'm surprised. It seems like when I think of Double Fine games, I think of story and world building and not at all like multiplayer. But they did make Iron Brigade too, and that was like a competitive multiplayer thing. So
yeah.
I'm curious about it.
I hope it goes well for them, but it is a scary. I am a little worried that it's not gonna find its audience, but let's see.
Yeah.
I'm kind of worried about all Xbox exclusive games finding their audience right now, if I'm honest. I think that it's crazy. Obviously in like Japan and in other countries, Xbox has been lagging behind for some time, but we're definitely seeing that here in the States as well right now. So I think it was said here that Forza Horizon 6, like that's going to be Xbox exclusive at the beginning, but then it is eventually going to PlayStation. I'll be interested to see if we hear news about Switch ports for any of these. It's kind of interesting that we haven't gotten that much from Microsoft on Switch 2 at this point.
A lot of these projects are Unreal, I think, and those are surprisingly hard still to get on the Switch 2, from my understanding.
Yeah, that's right. I do know, what is it? It was Expedition 33 was Unreal Engine 5, right? I believe so. I know it used a lot of like Lumen and whatnot.
I think so.
I think I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I know Nate the Hate in his most recent episode was saying he's expecting that to come to Switch 2 at some point this year. We've heard Starfield is supposed to come as well. So I hope they do better at Unreal ports on Switch 2 than they did on Switch 1, because that was pretty difficult. It was like, I feel like Unreal 3 was like the nice, like games that use that like played perfectly on the original Switch. But we are 2 Unreal Engines past that right now.
It's a tough little thing that 8-year-old mobile phone processor GPU.
It was weak at the time, and now it's 8 years later.
Yeah,
it's rough.
Yeah, I know both of you have. Obviously, Fabraz, you've put out a bunch of games on Switch, going as far back as Slime Song, and then Chris, you just put out Big Hops on Switch. That kind of Switch 2 development is still a little nebulous, especially for indies right now. It seems like I know the Big Hops is a Switch 1 game that just runs really well on Switch 2. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So we'll see how that goes. I really hope that more and more of this lack of dev kit problem that was happening with the Switch 2. I feel like we're maybe finally out of the weeds on that. But I think Nintendo, it would really behoove them to get those in the hands of more people, especially AAAs like Xbox.
The thing that surprises me so much, or that frustrates me so much, is they're like not letting people like us in, like in indies with like cool, inarguably cool games in. But if you open the Switch 1 store, it's like Feet Mama, like hentai games, and there's like dozens of them between the good games. And I don't think it's controversial to say that like this like mobile game, weird stuff like shouldn't be there. Yeah. I'm sure there's like intentionality, but it's like clearly they're trying to make a buck by publishing as many things as they can. And
I personally think we need the 56th calculator app.
AAA clock. Yeah. Another one of those. Yeah, no.
If there were feet in there.
I mean, that's actually been something I've wanted to do an episode on for a really long time. It's just like publishers that basically game the eShop. Because I really do think it's like a lot of publishers like early on in like the Switch's life cycle got in, and then basically once they were in, it's like they could do whatever they want. And then it's, they've kind of just collate all these different developers and sort of, there's a lot of asset swap stuff, a lot of Unreal Engine like assets that are stock assets. You see a lot of those in the eShop. So yeah, it's good quality releases, like you said, are missing out. And I think that gamers are inundated by the slop, and it's just really hard for them to kind of pick and choose what's actually good in the eShop. But that's a whole different conversation for another time. Moving on to our last little bit of non-Nintendo news. And this is a sad one. Ubisoft is just having more and more problems. Ubisoft, I think really for the last couple of years, has been really, really struggling. Their announced Prince of Persia Sands of Time game has been officially canceled. We had talked about that a little bit ago on whether or not that's vaporware, if that's actually coming out. We now have confirmation that game was officially canceled, along with 5 other projects which were not announced. So there's been a lot of layoffs happening at Ubisoft. I think a couple of their studios have like outright closed, one of them being in Halifax and one of them being in Stockholm. I know Stockholm, they at least helped alongside Avatar Frontiers of Pandora. And then the Halifax office was mobile games mainly. But I have no idea like what's really happening at Ubisoft right now. Obviously, Ubisoft has always been embroiled in lots of controversy, be it the way that they treat their employees or sexual assault allegations from CEOs and whatnot. And then now, of course, you're having sales issues and layoffs. This has been an ongoing thing in the industry for the last couple of years. I kind of don't see this stopping anytime soon, sadly, especially with the way that the tech industry is going right now and how, hardware sales are down across the board. Do you guys have any thoughts on kind of the AAA industry and these layoffs right now, like as indie developers? Fabian, what do you have to say about that?
I think first I'd like to say that it's really hard to give an assessment on these things without being inside that company, right? Like we are missing context, we're missing information. It's very easy to speculate and say if they would have done X, then they would have been fine.
Yes.
I think that happens way too easily in online conversations where like everybody is kind of an armchair expert. So I'm already saying that to kind of say that I'm not an expert in this either, and I don't know all the info. But from the outside, I think doing a remake is supposed to be the easy thing. And for a remake to take 6 years and then get still canceled feels like there must have been some crazy mismanagement of some sort. I don't know if this is true, but this is my feeling on it because that's supposed to be the easy cash money.
Totally.
So I find that quite surprising.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't have too much to say about it. I think like money is always moving around between different companies, and it's like kind of the normal process of business for like companies that aren't doing as well or make a lot of bad bets or whatever, like shrink in size, and then other ones are growing at the same time. For every Ubisoft, there's like 5. Now I wouldn't call them indie studios, but like new AAA studios that are like have their first 20 people, and some of them are coming from these like Ubisoft layoffs, and we're going to see a period of growth. Yeah.
I you often hear that it's like, oh, this is the great time for indie developers when all like the AAA studios are getting closed or whatever. And I just don't, obviously I love indie games. I think, the majority of games that I play are from smaller teams and indie developers, but it's also like there needs to be a space for working class video game developers and artists that can have just like standard jobs with, good healthcare and, and
we don't want to wave their suffering away. Like
exactly.
There's definitely people that didn't deserve to get laid off.
Right.
And think about it. Like, think about spending years of creating something and you're not even allowed to show it in a portfolio afterwards. Like, that's devastating.
Yes.
I would leak that shit. I would love to leak that shit.
Oh my God. The talking flower just put a sniper dot on your head again. No, but I feel you. I mean, like, I work in the animation industry myself and it's similar. It's like, I've worked on projects that, we got well into development, doing storyboards and animatics and whatnot, and then it gets kind of canceled, and then you just can't, and there's nothing to show, and you put in years of your life into stuff like this, and it's devastating, and so I really pray that it's like, because I really do think that we're heading towards some kind of crazy crash with this AI bubble, and and I'm not like wish casting that the economy crashes, but it's like I really do think that there's an opportunity here to kind of reassess where we're at with technology, entertainment, and whatnot, and like really start to have, some of these like kind of wild, crazy expectations where the game isn't profitable unless it sells 20 million copies. Like that stuff is just never going to be sustainable, right? So it's like keeping expectations in check. What did we talk about last week? It's like, I want like those like small to mid-budget like licensed games to come back. You know what I mean? Like stuff that you make in like a year, rather than these crazy games. I think gamers also need to kind of set their expectations. They can't just always expect every AAA game to be Call of Duty 7, So anyway, that's the soapbox for the day, but I really hope that we see some of this turn around. And lastly, we'll get back to a little bit of Nintendo stuff here, and this is just kind of talking about some financial news before we move on to our main topic here. Matt Piscatella from Circana has confirmed that the Switch 2 is the fastest selling console still, despite the slow holiday season. We talked a little bit about that recently. Console sales were down across the board due to this oncoming recession. But it seems like the Switch 2 is still doing all right. I think, their holiday wasn't quite what they wanted it to be, but it still is the fastest selling console, not just hardware. It is the fastest selling console. I think the fastest selling hardware is still the Game Boy Advance. And then Nico Partners has predicted that the Switch 2 will get a price increase sometime this year. We'll see how that affects sales going forward. It is brutal. That's what I'm saying. It's like, I feel like stuff has got to get worse before it gets a little bit better. But I'm excited to see Switch 2 doing okay because, like I said, and as we talked about earlier, I want to see more indie games releasing Switch 2 editions. I want to see more AAA third parties actually getting stuff out there. I know, what is it? Final Fantasy VII Remake just released this past week, and it's at the top of the charts on the eShop, right? So I think there is a hunger for these kind of AAA third party releases on Switch 2. Any thoughts on that?
Switch 2 is $450 right now?
It's $450 without the Mario Kart bundle. Yeah.
Without Mario Kart? Because the digital PS5 is only, am I seeing 500?
I think
for
so,
the no disc. That's crazy. If they're the same price, I don't know how you could argue to buy a Switch 2, except just the game, the exclusive games.
Yeah. I mean, it's also just gamer habits. Like me personally, like I have a PS5 that I bought off a friend, and I've turned it on like twice. I played Astrobot, and then I kind of like have not turned it on again. I think it's just my habits have become so like handheld focused, I play on my Steam Deck, I play on my Switch. I got that new the Einthor handheld, the kind of like flip handheld, and I love playing on that. I'm playing like 3DS retro games right now. It's like so I think a lot of people have just kind of changed their gaming habits, but we'll see. I don't know. For me, consoles are kind of in the past in a way, but I know a lot of people use their Switch 2s only docked, and more power to them. But I think that does it for our news here. We're going to move on in just a second to our main topic, which is Expressive Platformers with Chris and Fabian here right after this break. We are back here with Fabian from Fabraz and Chris from Luckshot to talk all about 3D platformers and specifically this idea of the expressive platformer. The first time I ever heard this expression of expressive platformer, Fabian, was actually from you, I think, in maybe one of your old school Twitter posts before the fall of man over there on x.com, where you would kind of do these like long posts of like upcoming 3D platformers. That was a way that I found a whole bunch of games personally back in the day that I wanted to play. And so I just want to thank you, first of all, for putting that on my radar, and I think for making so many of these incredibly fun 3D platformers. Obviously, you have Demon Tides coming out and Bubsy 4D coming out both this year. I think Bubsy just got a release date. Is that correct?
That's right. Yep. May 22nd.
May 22nd. Very, very excited for that. I love the demo for that. And then Chris, also, we had you on before, way back in the day when the Kickstarter for Big Hops was happening. Since then, Big Hops has come out with lots of acclaim. What I've been seeing has almost been entirely net positive on the response to this game. Very, very fun to play. I've been having a blast with the game myself. I think both of y'all's games have lots of really interesting platforming here. It's not just jump and dash and whatever, there's lots of different ways that you can play. So maybe, Fabian, if we could start with you, could you kind of explain to me what you would define expressive platformers as?
Yeah. I mean, first, I want to say that I don't think I can take fully credit for the name.
Okay.
I remember stumbling upon it at one point 10 plus years ago in a random Reddit forum where somebody described the platform as expressive. I'm pretty sure that kickstarted that kind of concept in my head. And it's very possible that was used since then. But I guess I can take a little bit of credit for like popularizing it quite a bit.
Sure.
Just because I've been kind of shouting about it on socials, as you said, probably to a point that's annoying some people. But yeah, it's a concept we discovered while working on Demon Turf, because Demon Turf was our first 3D platformer. Previously, of course, was Slime Summer, the 2D platformer, and through that game, we realized how much we're enjoying this concept of just like exploring a moveset where it has all of this hidden depth and combinatorial movement that you initially won't use and don't even know is there. But then through just getting more comfortable with it, you start using more and more, and you start just styling around. You just feel cool, like you don't even necessarily do it anymore just to cross certain gaps. You also do it to just show off. And for me, that's what an expressive platformer is that basically like if you look at a gap, how can I cross it, and how many ways can I cross that same gap with different moves, different. So that's not just a moveset, but that's also the level design, right? Accommodating that. But basically, that's the core. Is that like if there's more than, let's say, 5 options, you can pretty comfortably say it's expressive. Probably even lower than that. Just the moment the player feels like, oh, I'm doing this and I'm in this movement flow. I think we got just addicted to that concept.
Totally, yeah. And I feel like a lot of this maybe in let me know if you think I'm on base here, but I feel like a lot of this came from maybe like speedrunning tech and like stuff that maybe wasn't necessarily even originally intended by developers being used by players just to kind of flaunt and show off, right? Like I feel like a lot of stuff like the wall jumps into dives from Mario 64, like maybe like way back in the day, and just kind of like little glitches in tech that were discovered by communities over time, sort of eventually were being purposefully built in by developers. So much so that when we talked about before with the kind of continuity between Mario 64 and Mario Odyssey, I feel like Mario Odyssey is kind of one of the main, like, big AAA games that has really shown this as well, right? With kind of the cap throwing and all the different ways that you can move around in there.
The cappy tech is where it like becomes very much expressive. And it's something that a lot of players will not use because they're never comfortable with it. But the people who do, oh my God, are they styling again?
Totally. I mean, like when I play that game, it's like half the time I'm like not even doing anything. I'm just, it's just like, I feel like an expressive platformer is a game where like, it's just fun to just run around, And I think that the main kind of joy of the game is just moving, expressing yourself, as you said, and whatnot. And those games I really tend to gravitate towards quite a bit. Do you have anything that you would want to add on that, Chris? Like kind of what you see as an expressive platformer?
I agree with what all of you are saying. It's interesting that description, I think, applies to Mario 64. So it's like maybe like the GOAT was the first one to be a platformer at all, but then also happened to be expressive, and they wouldn't have described it as that. But you know,
it's crazy how much Mario 64 nailed it right out of the bat.
Yeah, it's insane. The like the skid flip, the triple jump, like you know, wall bouncing, belly sliding. It's like all there and so good on the first go.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily something that you do every time, right? Like, I wouldn't say Mario Galaxy is an expressive platformer, for example. It's many great things, but it's definitely not expressive.
I agree. Yeah. Same with like Astrobot, you know, another great 3D game that I love, but it's like, I played Era Machina. I had just played the demo of that game. And then I played Astrobot. And don't get me wrong, I loved Astrobot, but I was like, man, this game could have used like one more button. You know, like, you know, something that could like let me do like a little flip or something, right?
Because I need a fidget to play Astrobot.
When you say fidget, what do you mean by that?
I just need like
Subway Surfers on the side.
Okay.
yeah, exactly. Picture in picture Subway Surfers.
You just want to like, you just need to your Gooner TikTok brain is going crazy.
I need a hold a button to make Astrobot do flips.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's got the float. I'm not trying to shit on that game at all. I loved Astrobot.
No, it's a great game.
Yeah.
But I think it's obvious just, we all love Astrobot.
Right.
Anybody would listening would be like, I think we're haters.
Exactly. No, the satisfaction in that game entirely comes from doing the exact moves you're supposed to do perfectly.
Right.
Like, that's where the satisfaction comes from, which is a totally different type of satisfaction.
Right. Yeah. I think in Big Hops, I think, you know, the stuff that feels very expressive to me in that game is like, I love when you jump, like doing like a jump into a dive, into a like wall run, into a climb, into another wall run, into a jump, like stuff where you're stringing together things like that really, really tickles my brain when I'm playing that game, right? And I think and I also just love Breath of the Wild climbing. I think all games should have Breath of the Wild climbing in them. Every game, as I've always said, should have Breath of the Wild climbing and Kong letters from Donkey Kong Country. I think every game could use both of those things. Like, I love that about that game. And it's also, I think, another thing that really defines expressive platformers to me is like, I play an area, like for instance, like early on, you gave me an early code, Chris, for Big Hops, and I had an issue with save. I don't think it was anything on your end. I think it was all with my Steam Deck, but I like lost a little bit of progress, like with a save, and I had to go back. And this area took me like a long time to like figure out how I wanted to go through this area of the game. It was like early on in the game. And I think it probably took me like 30 minutes, 40 minutes to actually like get from point A to point B in this part. And then I was like, oh man, something got corrupted on my Steam Deck and I lost my save. I got to play all that again. And then I just like zoomed through that section again in a completely different way. You know, it was like not at all like my first playthrough whenever I played it. And I was doing all this different tech. I was using the items. I was using different like backpack upgrades or whatever that were making the entire playthrough different. So I think that like, for me, I think one of the main kind of like best aspects of an expressive 3D platformer is what it brings to replayability, right? And I wonder, like, when you guys are working on these games, maybe Fabraz, we could start with you on this. Like, do you have that in mind? Like, when you're developing, like, are you like, is replayability like at the forefront of your mind, or like what is going through your head when you're putting a lot of these mechanics in game?
So replayability, as in like I'm starting the game over, I don't think that's necessarily our biggest focus.
Okay.
But I think I think, as you said earlier, when the movement itself is just the fun, then replaying something because you're just exploring that movement further inherently makes it more replayable, right? So I think it naturally just kind of occurs that way. In Demon Tide specifically, one thing that we do to push the expressive platforming concept further is the talismans, which is basically like there's 50 plus of them that modify your gameplay. They can be as small as like adjusting values based on your different abilities, or it can introduce entirely new abilities and you can kind of combine them. And there's a huge amount of things you can do there. And so I think one thing I want to do post-game, as like a post-game patch if we can, is a New Game Plus mode where you can start the game over with all of the talismans already in hand. Because I think that would radically change up how you go through the starting areas.
Right.
That would be make it very replayable.
Yeah, that's a good point. That was something I noticed. That was part of Mario Wonder as well. I think something where they added those upgrades that kind of modify your gameplay, and I thought that was really cool to see. because I'd seen that in indies before, but that's the first time I'd actually seen that concept like from Nintendo, and I think that's one of the things where recent Nintendo, I feel like it's been a lot better about kind of like picking and choosing things from the rest of the industry that work and kind of incorporating that into their own games.
Though I find that pool's always pretty small. Like I find, like for example, in Bonanza, the skill tree, you can unlock everything. So I always question if it's a skill tree. And similarly with Wonders, like you get all the badges pretty quickly, and there's like 9 of them or something.
Right. And a lot of them are just like baby mode stuff that makes it easier. Right.
And so that pool feels too small to me, and so that's why we went really wide with our net there, but. It was also very hard to do.
Yeah, no, it seems like testing the game has got to be a lot harder whenever you have all these modifiers. Like, can you explain a little bit of that process?
Yeah, I mean, it's just basically there's a million possible combinations, and that means with a million possible combinations in a million different level scenarios, you've got these like bug reports. Right now, we're still getting bug reports that are like, if I use the spin updraft talisman in combination with the bat dive down talisman while sitting on this rock in this level, and you then switching from my gamepad to my keyboard, then the character clips through the wall. And it's just like, oh, okay, cool.
Right. Yeah, I got to figure out that specific incarnation every single time.
So funny.
Well, who do you have? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Chris.
How many of those can you equip at once? What's the combinatorics like there?
You start with 2 slots available, and then with each major boss fight, you unlock another slot. The final amount is 5, so you can have 5 at the same time.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's quite a bit. I mean, the number of combinations and possibilities there has got to be. I'm not going to do that. I'm not a statistics guy, but it's got to be very high.
It's big number, yeah. But it's a big drive. As like all of our playtesters so far, basically, were yearning for slots at one point because. By design, you end up with so many interesting ones you want to try out, where you just don't have enough slots to do it. And so I think that's a big, like, enticing carrot on the stick of like, oh, I want more.
Right. Yeah. And, and then on top of that, beyond just the kind of variability of, gameplay enhancements that you get from these talismans, obviously also, I think another big part of expressive platforming is the ability to customize just how you look aesthetically. Right. And I think that's been a really great thing that I loved about Demon Turf and Demon Tides so far with what I've played. That's something you also see in Odyssey as well, was the kind of costume changes. I think that really spices up gameplay and adds to replayability and just kind of the visual, keeping stuff fresh. I know that there's a lot of that as well in Big Hops, Chris. I think that was something I really liked was all the different dyes you can do for your clothes and outfits and whatnot. You also have a sort of talisman-esque, customization slots. Can you explain how those work in your game?
Yeah. The trinkets and hops, with the basic collectibles you kind of earn in the world, every 20 minutes, you like unlock a new trinket. And I think we have about 30 of them. And there's a mix of some are like gameplay modifiers that let you like climb a little bit farther or swim underwater a little bit longer. And then some of them are like helpers to find collectibles, like show on the compass, like where bits are or where mixtapes are. And then some of them are even like accessibility related. Like one of them that you basically always get early is invincibility, but at the cost of all your other slots have to be taken off.
Right. Yeah.
So we mess with difficulty a little bit with them. And I find I was interested when you said you're thinking about a new game plus where you get to keep all of them, because in hops, I would say that our pacing kind of is designed around how often you get trinkets. And if we like remove that system in a new game plus, it would feel a lot different and weirder. So you would kind of need to be like speedrunning it for it to be engaging in the same way.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of the ones that I really enjoy having on in Big Hops. It's like the speed run stuff. I like you've got one that just shows your miles per hour, like how fast you're going.
Yeah, there's a speedometer trinket.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome.
Like that one, I'm like, I don't really see like a practical use of that necessarily. Maybe there is one and I haven't like discovered it yet, but it's just fun. Like, stuff like that. Yeah, exactly. And I think like, for me, like I'm somebody who, I am a speedrunner, like in theory, but it's so hard for me to actually do in practice. Like I love watching like GDQ and I love seeing people break games and figure out ways to beat games really fast. And I like watching speedruns and whatnot. But I find that it's hard for me. I don't have like the patience necessarily to do that kind of stuff. Like to stream and play a game over and over and over again. But I think having speedrun modes like built into games is like the way to do it for me on like stage basis or level by level basis. Like I love that kind of stuff. So I love that both of you have been doing that.
Yeah, my absolute favorite thing when I watch streamers sometimes is when they, like back with Demon Turf, for example, where they finish a level, they look at the leaderboards and they're like, I'm not a speedrunner, but I'm going to give it a shot. And then an hour passes of them just trying to run over and over again. And it's like, you're now a speedrunner.
Yeah. You guys have really good kind of leaderboard implementation. Like it's kind of in the game, in the middle of it. You can kind of start doing that stuff. I think it works well.
Thank you. And my favorite thing that we added in Tides and Bubsy actually is the ghost modes now. So like now anybody who records a run on the leaderboards also records a ghost. Like
that's so good.
And so then you can directly run that ghost and see how they did it, right? Like what moves did they use, what path did they take, and then you can try to optimize it and get better at it. And that was totally derived from watching exactly those streamers I mentioned in Demon Turf, because oftentimes they would look at a time and be like, how the hell did they do that? And then sometimes they would try to find it on YouTube and maybe they'd find a speedrun upload, right? But now they don't have to. In game, you can figure out the tricks, and I think that's really fun.
Yeah, I think that's really clutch. And it's like little things like that really, especially when they're in there at launch, like really make a game feel so polished and full. And I think that it's like, I think both of y'all's games are this way, where it's like, you know, I turned these games on and I was just kind of like, man, all this little detailed quality of life stuff that kind of like respects me as a gamer. I just really, really appreciate that stuff whenever I play, especially an indie game. And I know that stuff has got to be hard to implement. And it's like every feature you add, again, as we talked about with game testing, it's like, okay, well, now I got to figure out how this is all going to work. But it's like, it doesn't get lost on gamers, I think. And it's something that a lot of people really appreciate. And I think it shows that you guys play a lot of games yourself, right? If you're thinking about these features, you know, and they're in there at the top, clearly it's stuff that you've seen. Like, can you talk about like any inspirations on features, like any games that you've played that maybe have made you want to put stuff like this into your games?
A quick one for me is Neon White a few years ago, kind of a first-person speedrunning focus game.
Yes.
They have like challenge rooms, but those are the levels basically, and you can speed run them, and there's a leaderboard kind of associated with each room. And for hops, we have these like side challenges that are like optional in the game, but they're kind of, you know, they're between 1 and 5 minutes long, and you know, they're definitely built around the idea of speedrunning. And in that game, once you unlock them, you sort of can replay them wherever you want. And in hops, when you find them in the game in anybody's save out of the 3 save slots, they get like exposed in the main menu so that you can go back into them whenever you want.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And that was inspired by Neon White.
Nice.
Yeah. What about you, Bobby?
I think the most obvious one for people will obviously be the Bowser's Fury. Like that was very much a game that kind of kickstarted the idea. If you can believe it, actually, Demon Tides was first supposed to be like a nice paid DLC for Turf. And then we actually sat down and talked about the logistics of building an open world ocean system. And we're like, yeah, no, that's not DLC. No way. But that was definitely the starting point. And then kind of seeing, can we push it much, much further? Which is, you know, an insane thing to say, like to look at a Nintendo game. Like we all have to be slightly insane as indie devs, right? Like Chris can relate to that. Like you'll play Zelda Breath of the Wild and you're like, oh, that emergent gameplay is cool. I wonder if I can do that too, right?
Yeah.
Or like in our case, like Bowser's Fury is pretty neat. I wonder if I can do like a bigger ocean. Like a little bit of hubris is like needed, I think.
Yeah.
But
totally.
Yeah.
Early for us, when I would show people hops, they would be like, this really feels like a mix of Breath of the Wild and Mario Odyssey. And I'd nod and be like, yep. And they'd be like, what the hell? Like, you shouldn't try to do that. And I'd be like, oh, why?
Why not? Exactly. I mean, Bowser's Fury is 5 years old now, 4 years old.
Yeah, it's retro at this point. That is a retro game.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, but it's great. I'm actually loving that we're like on the cusp right now of the Bowser's Fury, like as a genre. Like I've been
that's so funny.
On this podcast, I've been referring to Demon Tides as a Bowser's Fury like for a while. I hope you're okay with that. But I like it's like that. I think is a Bowser's Fury like, and then also what was it that I just played?
The Big Catch.
The Big Catch. Yes. The fucking Big Catch tackle box was so goddamn fun. And that was that was like the demo for the game. And it felt like its own full game. Like I think I played the Big Catch tackle box for like 10 hours and like 100% of that game. And it was so fun. And it was just like, oh yeah, like I love seeing indie devs like taking stuff that they love from Nintendo. Like we did a whole episode on that recently, actually, with the developer of Axes and also Marcus Horn from Ciactro. We had both of them on the podcast recently to talk just about like, indie spiritual successors to games, and I think in a way, I don't want to use that term to like demean the product of what these people are making, but I just think like all art is to some extent derivative and is at least inspired by everything else. And I think wearing that stuff on your sleeve instead of kind of hiding away from that or trying to be like, no, I came up with all these ideas, like is such a good, like healthy way to approach creativity and art as a whole.
For sure.
So,
and what matters is like what you do with it, right? If you're just doing a carbon copy, okay, that's boring. But like if you take it and you're like, okay, now I can put my own spin on it and I can add another thing to it or remove something I didn't like from it, then it becomes your own. And that is quite literally how everything works.
Yeah.
And gamers are so savvy too. Like they can recognize instantly if the thing you're making is a copy or inspired by and in conversation with. So I never worry about that because as soon as people sit down with our games, it's like obvious in a million ways.
Right.
It's its own thing.
Exactly. And I think honestly, even for games that are a little bit more like straight lifted, sometimes I think that is good and necessary, right? It's like for instance, like Axes like really wears Cooler World on its sleeve, right? Like it is a very much a new Cooler World game in all but name. But it's like, are they ever going to make another Cooler World? No. So it's like we might as well like have some new games with some new stuff, right? And it's like just change the name if you need to. I think, I don't know. Anyway, I'm not going to rehash that entire episode here, but that's something I just find fabulous in the indie space.
Yeah.
I did have a couple of specific questions for both of you. Fabian, Fabraz right now, you have two like pretty beefy looking 3D platformers coming out within a couple months of each other. I just want to ask about your process there. Like, do you have multiple teams within Fabraz? Or I imagine that you're kind of overseeing both of these projects. Like, how just technically are you working on both these games at the same time?
Yeah, it's really funny because like this happens to us a lot. Like whenever I ask people how big do you think is Fabraz, I will hear numbers of like 10 to 20. It's like, no, our core team is 6.
Yeah.
we're 6 people at the core. And then, we work with really awesome other people outside of the team, either part-time or through contract work, to kind of, pad out the team size, of course. But at the core, that's it. And that's true between Demon Tides and Bubsy as well. And I think a lot of it is just how we approach the design of it. You mentioned before you want more games that are done in 1 year. Bubsy 4D was done in 15 months.
That's awesome.
Start to finish. And we wrapped it up actually back in December. And now it's basically in the porting process, which we're not involved in. And the way we did it is we really just... There were 2 steps to it. Number one, we built something called the Fabraz framework inside of Unity. That is basically our primary framework for all of our tooling, level designing, character, controller, all of that stuff. And so obviously both games share that, and that helps a lot because then you don't have to build the foundationals each time, which can take a year plus. And then it was just really solid managing, I think. We really just kind of designated a day for this project, a day for that project, sometimes had half a team there, half a team there. And then depending on what needed to be done, we shuffled it around. And every week we basically just kind of assigned how many hours each project needs. Obviously during Bubsy got a bit more time than Tides. So that kind of also contributed to the 4-year development of Tides. I think otherwise we probably would have already released it. But yeah, it was just making that work. And we managed without any crunch or any drama, which is nice.
That's amazing. Yeah. And it's cool too, like being able to work between something that is very much your own with the kind of demon franchise here that you have between Turf and Tides. And then also Bubsy, taking on obviously this old, often maligned established IP. I bet that just psychologically helps when you're balancing these 2 projects, that one is your own and one is kind of like almost like a for hire sort of thing with Atari, right? Like, Can you talk a little bit about that? Like, what is there one that you prefer, or are you just happy to do both?
Oh, both are my babies. Like I love them equally for sure. The great thing with Atari is that they gave us an unbelievable amount of leeway with Bubsy. Like for example, the redesign we did on him, is a pretty major departure, and they were pretty much universally okay with it. And I think I can really applaud that. And so that translates to the game. Like, that game is a Fabraz game through and through.
Yeah, you can tell when you play the demo. It definitely feels like Demon Tides, right?
Right. Like, they share definitely some similarities, and they also have like fundamental differences to like level design, structure, story, and like some of the more intricate movesets. But yeah, it's I love them both.
Yeah, that's really awesome. I that's like a level based game, right? It's not like a hub like Demon Tides.
No open world. No.
Yeah. Well, I think it's really wonderful that you guys have been able to kind of like build this engine or kind of have your own style. Because I mean, I think Demon Tides obviously looks a lot different from Demon Turf. You had the kind of 2D pixel-based character, or I don't know if they were pixelated, but they were the 2D characters.
Yeah, they were.
Okay, yeah, they were in the 3D world, and now you've got full 3D games for both of these. So very excited for both of those. As a 3D platformer fan, it's like I'm like that meme with like there's too much food coming at me. You know,
one of our community members had like the holy shit 2 cakes meme.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I'm just really, really excited for 2026 as a platformer fan. Chris, I wanted to ask you as well. You know, we had you back on. I think you hadn't even really recorded all the VO at the point when we had you on the episode last. Now you've had the game. It's launched. You've launched multiplat as well on day one. I know that.
Which is so impressive.
Yeah, very impressive.
That's so
Thanks.
Hard.
Yeah. It was a lot.
Yeah. Well,
as I'm sure you guys saw, we had some bugs at launch, and it was a little bit scary, you know, and it was a lot of bug fixing for the first week. But now things are pretty stable, and our second Switch patch since launch will go live either today or tomorrow. So
right.
Feeling stable.
Can you talk a little bit about, like, you know, especially in the post-launch, you know, when you're on multiple platforms and each platform has their own certification process, and I'm sure it's a lot easier to put out an update on Steam than it is on Switch. Like, what's kind of your process when you're trying to manage all that at once? Like, what do you do about that?
Yeah, because Steam is so quick, it's just every day I'm sort of like focusing on the most urgent things that are hitting the most players, and like all the platforms will have the same issues that Steam's having, and then they'll also have some of their own specific issues. And once PlayStation is pretty good in that they let you kind of self-approve a patch, so you don't need to wait for them to review it, and it's, you know, there's a little bit of risk there where you could like make the game worse accidentally or like introduce serious bugs. But
right.
So we're working with a team called A Priori Digital in the UK who like, I'll tell them like, okay, I've made all my fixes. Like, I'm ready for you guys to make a patch, and they'll go do that. And there's a few things that are on their plate. And then when we sort of feel good about our changes, and if our last patch for Switch is like done being approved and is live, then we can submit another one. And so we kind of are ready, waiting for the next patch to finish so that we can submit the next one every time that the review finishes.
Yeah.
And it can be the time between a review or a patch going live and then the next one being submitted is generally pretty intense and stressful, because we're like, okay, we want to get as much stuff as we can into this one, but we have to submit it right now so that it'll be in review for the next week, and then we'll be able to get it live. So it's like, what fixes are we willing to kind of, you know, make a new build for or not? And that can be intense, but
yeah,
it's all gone pretty well, I would say. And like, I know it's as good as it's ever been trying to patch a game. Like a week turnaround for a Nintendo console isn't as bad as it was.
Yeah.
You know,
that's actually quicker than I thought it would be. Yeah. Well, that's really good. I'm really glad that the game has been doing really well. Like I went to, just full disclosure, you know, you're here in Austin. I went to the release party of the game and had such a good time, kind of like talking about some of the stuff with you in person. So it's really nice to have you back on the show, Chris. Personally.
I'm so glad you came.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Thanks for inviting me. It's definitely a blast. And I think everybody should play that game. I want to talk a little bit more just kind of about the genre as a whole before we wrap up here. I think obviously like player agency is so important with this genre, and we talked about letting players express themselves. Like, are there other ways that that you, when you're designing the game, like, because I imagine, you know, you're trying to kind of design for every possible way that somebody could approach the platforming, the level design, and whatever. Like, do you ever just kind of say, I'm going to let Jesus take the wheel on this one, and I just have a sandbox, and what happens? Like, I guess, does that scare you? Like, if you have so much variability there and the players can do whatever they want, does that ever like make game design like difficult? Let's start with you, Fabian.
Yeah, I definitely am not in the like laissez-faire camp there. Like I think so. It's really interesting because if you like giving the player a lot of liberty is important, and it's part of the expressive platformer. But if you give them too much, then you can make the game boring. Because there's a lot of pitfalls you can fall in. The first one, for example, is you could create the ideal setup, and then they only use that one over and over again and do not engage with any of the other mechanics anymore. That sucks. So you always want to make sure that there are scenarios that enforce that this particular setup is not going to be the best anymore for you.
Okay.
Maybe this one will be better. The other one is obviously you don't want like infinite climbs. You don't want glitches and tricks that somehow lead you to skipping 80% of the level. That's boring too. Like, we want you to feel clever in skipping a part. We don't want you to skip the entire level, because then you're not playing a game anymore. So it's a very difficult balance, because you both want to make the player feel very powerful while still giving enough limitations that it is engaging to go through.
Right. That's funny you say that. It reminds me of like Mario World with like the cape. You know, it's like you can just straight up skip a level if you have that, right? But it's like, but sometimes that's not the fastest way to do it, right? Like, I think, I guess I'm curious, like, for speedrunners, like, for instance, like when they find glitches that like lead to speedrun tech, like, is that something that, like, when do you decide like, oh, I've got to patch that out, or I'm going to leave that in because this is like fun tech for speedrunners?
So that one we've learned through many years of active speedrun communities. That is a community-driven decision. Like, if that glitch is discovered on something public, whether it's a demo or the full game or whatever, we are not the ones who should make the sole decision anymore. And so what we usually do on our Discord is we basically open up for discussion and say like, hey, listen, do you find this fun? How does that impact the scene? And then we take all the feedback they say, and then we take our own feelings into account, and then we make a kind of like a unifying decision. And so sometimes that has led to making glitches official. So like we don't fix the issue, but then introduce it as a proper mechanic. Other times it's just accepting that this glitch is cool and we leave it. And then there are also plenty of times where we all decided, the community themselves as well, it's like, yeah, this would make runs really boring. Let's not do that.
Yeah. What about you, Chris? Any thoughts on that, or the player agency question?
I'm in terms of speedrunners, I'm a little bit more, I would say, authorial about it. Like, I'm sort of designing for the SGDQ run.
Right.
And if they find something that's going to make that run more boring or like make the game look simpler than it is, I like want to patch that stuff out. We've had a couple times people figure out like a strategy to do like an infinite sort of wall climb with like a really boring, you know, highly technical and very boring for the run, like glitch basically. And whenever I see that, I'm like, hey guys, I'm going to patch this out. Don't bother learning that tech. Like,
sure. Yeah.
But if they find a skip that's really cool to watch, like somebody just found in one of our void levels where you like use a few launchers in a row, you're supposed to sort of go on the top of this platform and go along the back of it and do all this stuff, and then you come back around to the bottom of it and gravity like flips.
I think I know which level you're talking about. Yeah,
I saw somebody launch and just fall under it and keep horizontal momentum, and then the whole level just flipped and they skipped like half the level, and I was like, that's a hell yeah moment.
I did that too.
Nice.
No, because it was like, oh, I don't think I'm supposed to do this, but then you kind of feel like you're getting away with something, which is like a really fun feeling.
It's a really good feeling.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah,
man.
And I think that makes up a fair amount of Mario Galaxy speedrunning too. It's like defying the gravity.
Right. Yeah, you're taking the mechanic and then breaking it, using it to your advantage, the kind of like core mechanic of the game. So you guys are both pretty involved with the speedrunning communities around your games then, you would say. Like you try to
Definitely.
just be abreast on that, not kind of block it out.
Half of our QA team are speedrun members from Demon Turf.
Oh, that's so cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's really awesome.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, when Valve brought on like the Half-Life modders for Counter-Strike and whatever. Like I love
if someone knows how to break the game, it's them.
Yeah, exactly. I did want to close out this conversation just about looking to the future here, because like we said, there's a ton of indies that are slated to come out in 2026 in this genre that I'm so excited to play. Where do you guys see the future of 3D platformers and expressive platformers in general? Like, we're living now in a post Astrobot winning Game of the Year at the Game Awards world, right? And so I think that 3D platformers are back on the menu, boys. Sorry, I just been watching Lord of the Rings. Do you think that we'll be seeing like AAA and first party taking some cues from the indie community? Like, where do you see the future of this genre going?
Or the last two. No more.
That's it. The end.
Oh, you hate to see it. Oh, it's nice to be here for the in memoriam for 3D platformers.
Exactly. Big Ops and Demon Tides killed a 3D platformer.
Okay,
that's going to be our legacy.
That's the you just got the title of the YouTube video here.
That's good.
R.I.P. Gravestone. No, what do you think, Fabian?
I think there's definitely going to be another Astrobot. So you can guarantee there's going to be at least another AAA.
Maybe they add another button.
Yeah, maybe there's going to be another Mario. So you're safe. You're going to have at least 2 AAA platformers that are going to be good.
Right.
I think in the indie side, it's going to be the key is the diversity of it all, right? So you've got Roland Rascal, which is amazing. That's a Sonic-like.
Yes.
You've got Billy Bust Up, which is really good. And that's like a musical take, which is super innovative. You've got The Big Catch coming up. You've got all kinds of different genres. Caro Quest, which is Mario 64 like.
Yes.
You've got everything you need for a spread of a smorgasbord, basically, of different kind of 3D platformers that use different inspirations and different subgenres. And I think that you're going to see a lot of those. And I think that's kind of defining this new era of 3D platformers. And to your question of like how much does it influence the AAA scene? I don't know. It's hard to say. I do think there is a distinct desire for more character expression, like character-driven movement. So I think if you're not going to see necessarily like more 3D platformers suddenly popping up, you're going to see more games that maybe traditionally were pretty basic in their movement have a little bit more going on. Like even Pokemon ZA, which is hilarious. It doesn't have a jump button, but it has this whole weird little parkour thing.
Yeah.
And I think it's those little things that I think you're actually going to start creeping in everywhere. Just a little bit like how there was an era where everything suddenly got a crafting system. There's a chance you're going to see a little bit more just like character focus in every genre.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, it's like we do see like RPG skill trees being added into games that aren't RPGs, right? And the same thing. I was very surprised at the whole traversal in Pokemon Legends ZA, especially considering how samey that whole environment is. It really spiced up the gameplay. Chris, what about you? You have any thoughts about kind of the future of this genre?
I expect to see more multiplayer and more slime and goop. Those are the two things I expect. I think my real answer is like we're not going to see that many more AAA like pure platformer games. I think for them to justify their budget, they need to add other paradigms that are like make it a higher value as a product. So like you could argue Splatoon is a platformer.
Definitely.
Or you could Donkey Kong's obviously a platformer, but it's so many other things at the same time.
Yeah.
And whatever new Mario, they're going to announce a new 3D Mario game this year probably, and it's going to be a 3D platformer and something else.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, because we're at the point now where it's like, I mean, this is the F-Zero conundrum. It's like we're not getting an F-Zero because they can't figure out like what new mechanic to add. And it's like Nintendo always is that way, I think, for better and for worse, right? But it is what makes all their games seem so fresh. But anyway, this has been a very fun topic. Thank you guys both for coming on. I know, Chris, you have to bounce right now. So before we move on to the next topic, do you just want to let the people know where they can find you and anything you want to plug?
Yeah, I mean, the best place is probably like Blue Sky. If you search Luckshot Games, Luckshot is one word. That's the place to find me. Also, Big Hops is on Steam and Switch and PS5. So you search it on those stores, you'll find it there. And yeah, otherwise, that's all for me.
Very good. Awesome. Love to see it. Before we move on, I just want to open this up to the floor. If you, listener, have anything that you want to add about 3D platformers, expressive platformers, please leave that below in the comments and we'll be sure to shout you out next week. But I think in the meantime, we're going to take a small break. And when we come back, we'll talk about the games we've been playing recently. I've actually been playing a good amount of games this past week. Again, there was a big freeze here in Austin, so I've been playing a lot of video games. I'm still chugging my way through Ocarina of Time 3D. Like I said, I'm playing that on the Ein Thor, which is so fun, playing that with like 4K textures and a free camera mod and everything like that. I'm really loving my playthrough of this game again. It's been so long since I played it before. I'm currently on the Spirit Temple, so I'm pretty close to being done with the game. And I actually like streamed this from my Thor on Twitch recently, which had mixed results, but it was kind of fun figuring out how to do that. In addition to that, I've also been playing a little bit of Ape Escape. And this might surprise you, but I've never actually played an Ape Escape game before. This is my first time ever playing Ape Escape, and I've been playing this on the Thor as well. And dude, it's so fun. I just can't believe, there are so many games in the world and so many franchises that have just passed me by. And so I'm really
I also just love games that like experimented, because we do that less and less now. We've kind of homogenized control schemes.
Yes.
But I love the times when games were just like, oh, we don't really know how to do this. Let's try this weird control scheme. And it's just like, I love that.
It's so cool. Like the very first time I played it, I was like, oh, please, I want to move the camera with the right stick. But then it's like, I let myself get used to it for a second, and using the right stick to actually control the net and the lightsaber, I guess, that your character has. It's just like so creative, and it makes it feel kind of timeless and fresh still, right? You know, I think that more games could do away with kind of like these standard control methods that we've come to know forever. But and then last couple things I'll talk about. I did play a good amount of Panel de Pon this week online. Adana, who was on the show recently, hit me up. Adana was the one of the writers on Spirit Swap, which is a Panel de Pon like. And I saw on Instagram, she was like, "Hey, I'm trying to play some Panel de Pon if anybody wants to play," or Pokemon Puzzle League rather. And so I actually played some online with Adana, which was fun to play with somebody who actually worked on one of these games before. So that was super fun. Nice. And then also shout out to Molly, who I played the Super Nintendo or the Super Famicom version of Panel de Pon with as well. That's my go-to happy game. I'll say that. And I love playing those games online. And then last thing that I do want to give a shout out to is a new game that I think just dropped on Switch, iPhone, iPad, and Steam. And that is Astro Party EX. This is a new game from a friend of the show, Rusty Boyer. He's a great Austin game dev down here. And Jeff Fillion did all the pixel art and backgrounds for this game. This is a like free version of Astro Duel 2 that has come out that specifically is meant to be played with touch controls, right? So this is a very fun game for Switch 2 because you can just kind of set the Switch 2 tablet on the table and have up to 4 people control the game just with touch. And so I think the Switch has always kind of needed more games that are there specifically for like playing at restaurants while you're waiting for your food to come out. You know what I mean?
Right.
And this is like a perfect game for that. I played recently with
it's like the Nintendo ad, basically, right? Like
yes, exactly.
Ads, they always have it.
Yeah. More rooftop party games or airport. Hey, is that a Switch? You know, like we need more of those. But I played with my friend Grace. I went over to her house and we tried this out. It was really fun. We did a 1v1 with the touch controls. And then we also played teams where both of us were controlling 2 ships at once. And that was chaotic in the best possible way. So check that out. There's not a ton of free-to-play games on Switch, but that's out on the eShop now. It's also on phones and iPad, like I said. And congratulations to Rusty for launching another game. What about you, Fabian? You've been playing anything recently? I know you've been working a lot.
I have to admit, what I've been playing mostly outside of work is just more work. I've been playtesting Demon Tides like crazy. Been playing it a lot on my Steam Deck, which is nice because at least it allows me to do it out. Like, I'm already on my computer for 12 hours a day. If I can playtest on my deck, on my sofa, that's great.
Yeah. The Steam Deck is really a wonderful console. It just disappears in your hands.
Game changer for me.
Yeah.
The only other game I've been playing a little bit over the last couple of weeks was Pokemon ZA. I'm one of the weirdos that actually thinks that game is really good, and I really enjoyed the DLC as well. Even though it's super grindy, but I just find that there is an argument to be had that sometimes just grinding away is the fun. And so I just wanted a game where my brain is off and I grind away, and it gave me exactly what I needed.
Oh, totally. I agree with you. I mean, I was kind of dreading this game coming out, to be honest, because I was such a fan of Legends Arceus, and just knowing that this was not another Monster Hunter style exploration game. I was like, I don't know about this, but I was very surprised at how much I enjoyed Pokemon Legends ZA. And I do think that gameplay loop really lends itself to grinding, like you said. And I was very impressed at like the Xenobladification of the combat system. You know, like it kind of like
I really dug the combat system.
Yeah, it was very surprising. That was one of my my biggest surprises of 2025. So I'm glad to hear you enjoy that too. I haven't tried the DLC. Maybe I'll have to give that a go. But there's a million platformers for me to play, Fabian. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get to it. But I think with that out of the way, that's going to do it for this week's episode. Thank you so much, Fabian, for coming on. It was such a delight to have you. Like I said, I've been enjoying your games for years, so it's such an honor to finally have you on the podcast. I'd like to give a thanks to MilkyWay.co for doing our website. Thanks to Corduroy for doing our music. Thanks to all of our patrons on Patreon. And if you would like to find me online, I'm pretty much everywhere on the internet at Monolith Fiji. What about you, Fabian? Where can people find you and your studio online?
If you search for Fabraz, Fabraz, pretty much anywhere, I'll probably be there. And just, look out for our 2 game releases, Demon Tides, February 19th, and Bubsy 4D, May 22nd. It's going to be one hell of a year for us.
Yeah. Good luck with the post-patching process, like Chris was talking about. I'm sure that's going to be its own whole song and dance for you guys to do.
We got this. We got this.
Very good. Very good. I like the attitude. That's great. Yeah, definitely check out both of those games. They both have demos available right now, at the very least on Steam, right? So check those out. If you'd like to find our show on social media, we are at Switch Headz on Blue Sky and Twitter, at Super Switch Headz on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. We have a website, switchheadz.com, and we have a Patreon. As I said before, if you'd like to chuck in a buck, we'd be grateful for that over there. We have a Facebook group and a Discord. Please join us over there on the Discord. We have such a wonderful community that has formed over the years on Discord. It's a great place to continue the conversation, to play multiplayer games with friends, and just talk about all things gaming. It's a wonderful group of non-toxic gamers, which is increasingly rare on the internet these days. But I think, gang, that's it. Like and subscribe on YouTube. Share the show with a friend. We're going to be back next week with another wonderful episode of the show. We've got an awesome guest lined up for next week and a really wonderful topic. But in the meantime, gang, you guys know the drill. Be safe out there. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to one another. Buy Demon Turf and Bubsy and Big Hops. Buy all the indie games that your wallet can allow. Fuck Ice. Free Palestine. We love you very much. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.